I tell everybody I'm from California because it's where I grew up. Well, at least those years I can really remember. Now, it's in those years I fell in love with the ocean. And I'm constantly telling my family and friends, hey guys, I really need to get my saltwater fix. Here's the thing. I love surfing. I kind of stink at it, but I still love it. You know why? My saltwater fix. Now, when you hear about surfing, are you visualizing the beach, the waves, and all these women and men charging down with the big boards? Or, though, are you visualizing any dogs charging down those waves too? If you're not, and I'll bet most of you aren't, get this. There are dog surfing contests all over the world now, and these dogs are really, truly surfing. I mean, really surfing. And they've been doing it since the early 1920s. They even made a dog surfing film that was silent like in the 1930s sometimes. It was called On the Waves in Waikiki. Now, these guys are competitors. And when these dogs are competing, they're judged not only for their confidence, they're judged by the wave size and the length of the ride too. It's a real sport, guys, and thousands of people show up to watch them to compete. Now, today, I want you to meet Faith, the surfing pit bull, and her owner, James Wall. Now, can you imagine this? You rescue this dog, and the next thing you know, this dog is world famous. And people are coming up and wanting selfies with you guys. She's on posters everywhere in the surfing communities, and she's being featured as a guest on some of the top television shows. Faith and James' story is really pretty incredible. James wasn't even a surfer, but the story unfolds, and you're going to hear how he got involved with dog surfing and how he then learned how to train dogs to surf, and then how he trained Faith, who's now recognized as one of the top dog surfers worldwide. Now, I've always promised fun and a slightly crazy and heartwarming story. Well, this one is all of that and a little bit more, and I can't wait for you to meet Faith and James. We are supported by PrepVet, providing stem cell therapy for pets.
As a pet lover, did you know your pet can benefit from the incredible healing power of stem cell therapy? Prep Therapy offers a groundbreaking solution taken right from your pet's own blood. Say goodbye to joint pain, arthritis, kidney and liver conditions, and more. They'll experience faster recovery, increased vitality, and extended quality of life without the need for surgery or harmful drugs. Put the wag back in their tail and discover Prep Therapy today at prepvet.com. Save 10% with promo code FurRealPodcast, covered by most pet insurance.
For real, 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 for real. Got a bunch of furry friends and I love them all the same. I'm an animal lover, veterinarian is the name. Let's share some pet stories from heartwarming to strange. Losses and gains, from wacky to insane. For real. You're now tuned in to For Real with your host, Mark Kyle.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the For Real podcast. I'm so, for you guys that have listened before, and for my friends that listen out there, everybody knows that I just love the ocean. It's my special spot. And today's guest, I'll tell you, it was a no-brainer for me, and I know it's going to be a great one for you. So I want you to welcome James Wall and Faith, the surfing pit bull. James, thanks so much for taking the time. I know you just got back from a long trip, and you taking the time really means a lot to me, and I really appreciate it.
Oh, I appreciate you getting a hold of me, inviting me on.
Well, I feel privileged. You've been all kinds of crazy shows and that. And so, but I want to get into your history. And, again, we're talking about surf dogs and that. And of course, Faith is the special one. But let's start with you. I know you're in Southern California. Where are you? Let's hear your history, how you got involved with this thing, and just go from there.
Well, I'm born and raised in San Diego. Growing up, obviously living within 20 minutes of the beach. That was a summer spot, but one of the things most people don't realize is I actually don't like the beach.
That still drives me crazy. When we first talked, you told me, I still can't believe that.
Yeah, people say, "Oh, I love the sand between my toes." Nah, I don't. I don't like that. I wear booties. So instantly it's like, wait, people are like, what? And then they hear I have a dog that knows how to surf, so they figure I'm a surfer. I'm like, no. I know the idea of it. My body just doesn't do it.
That's so crazy.
But my dogs love the beach. So, being a good pet parent, I take him to the beach.
Right.
And somehow I got introduced into this crazy idea of dogs surfing. First time I heard it, I was like, this ain't real. And then tried it once. And then with one of my dogs, she liked to jump in. But then I got another dog, tried it. And here we are 14 years later, we've been doing this.
Well, the crazy thing is, and of course, Faith has got all kinds of popularity and all that, and we'll get into her. But the crazy thing is, I still can't believe that you growing up in Southern California didn't like the beach. Not that it's that unusual, but it kind of is. And then, so you're going to the beach with your dogs, and you see this thing, but you're an instructor now and all this. So let's dig in a little bit more about. I mean, I still, it's pretty crazy. Where you were then and where you are now.
Yeah, it definitely is. Like I said, it was something. So, kind of how it started going to the beach with my dogs was I had one dog, she passed away from cancer. And then my next dog, I was like, I'm going to do better with this dog and teach it new things. So we started at Fiesta Island, which is just a little island inside the bay, San Diego Bay. And she loved the water. So we tried the beach. And then that's where it was just playing in the water with her, chasing. She was running after balls, just, being a dog. And we heard about a surf competition and they had lessons. So I was like, hey, why not? What's the worst that could happen? I'll be out a couple hours and spent a couple bucks that went to one of the local animal charities. And she did okay, but she'd much rather play. I got another, and then we ended up adopting another dog, even though my wife said no dogs when we go to this event, and she fell in love with one. We tried him, and he did pretty well. And so it just kind of slowly progressed into what it is today. And with Frankie, my second dog, who was learning, I had the idea of when I was at one of the clinics that teach the dogs, they said, hey, we need people to help us do and like instruct. To just, you don't have to know anything, just be help in the water for the other instructors. So that's kind of where I got, if you want to say, got my feet wet on the instructing thing. I figured if I help out here, I'm going to learn. It's going to sound selfish. I'm going to learn and mess up with other people's dogs. And then when I try to take my dog out, I will know actually what to do. So it's kind of a win-win. I'm helping others and I'm learning myself. And ever since then, we haven't looked back.
Well, that's obvious, but let's get to let's can you give a little history of where the surf dog came from? Everybody knows about human surfing and may have seen a thing on the TV with a dog on a surfboard and that, but what's the history of it? Do you know much about it? I did some stuff on it, but what can you kind of give me a little background?
So what I know of it is dog surfing is not actually a new thing. I think it was in 1920 or something in Hawaii. There was a dog. I want to say it was named it was something like Nighthawk or something.
Nighthawk, that's the one I read about.
Yeah, the owner took him out on his big old board and they went surfing, and it just kind of it's been around, but it hasn't been back then. It was more of a human surfing with their dog doing tandem.
Right.
And I never really heard of dog solo up until about, I don't know, 2004, 2005 ish. I could be wrong on the dates. And that's kind of where we got introduced into it, was maybe, no, it was a little later than that. About 2010s when I kind of got introduced into it. And since that time, it's funny how it's evolved in just the time frame that I've been involved. I've seen the evolution of dog surfing, where when we first started, it was people were dressing their dogs up in silly costumes. They were taking the dogs out to knee deep water and just white watering it in. Maybe you'd have that adventurous one that would go to about waist deep,
Mhm.
and they'd just be riding the brake all the way in. Since that time, it's progressed into kind of a more of an extreme sport. I've seen dogs going out and getting on waves that are pretty close to 8, 9 feet,
Really?
and they're pushing them in they're pushing them into the blue water before it breaks, and it's legitimately been it's real surfing.
When you're talking about 8 or 9-foot waves, so I surf, I love surfing, I suck at it, but I love it. But when you're measuring a wave, when they say 8 or 9, it's measured from the back of the wave. The face on an 8 or 9-foot wave, or is it the face that's 8 or 9, or is it or 8 or 9-foot wave that's, if it's a face, it's still huge, but if it's an 8 or 9-foot wave, it could be a 15-foot face.
Yeah, I'm not sure
Right.
the exact spot they measurement. I just know it's basically from if you were standing on top of the water, 8 to 9 feet up is how I was explained to me.
Yeah, envision it, and of course, I've looked at a bunch of videos and stuff like that. I've never been on the I mean, I've seen guys surf with their dog on the board. That's a little bit different than some of these guys are doing. Of course, it's still part of the whole surf dog thing. I just envision like a wave that's, waist high or a little bit higher than that they're surfing, but they're surfing that big of a wave. That's crazy.
I mean, like I said, I'm not the most experienced beach surfer type person, so I had to learn how to read waves.
Right, sure.
And I still don't say I'm great. I'm not bad, but I'm not great by any means. But I'm going out there, and when we do it for fun, obviously I'm a little more cautious because there's less people, less I have less help in the water. But during competitions, I'm going as pretty much as far out as I can where I could safely still I might leave my feet a little bit, but I'm about 6 foot tall. And if I'm having wave water that's hitting me in the face and then I'm pushing her into a wave, that's a pretty large wave.
I think it's awesome. I really do. What a great thing. I mean, really, she's your dog. She's kind of your friend now. You guys are kind of partners on a team.
Oh yeah, that little girl's my best friend. She's anytime we're anywhere and like she's laying in her bedroom. Yeah, my dog has a bedroom. She's in there asleep right now, but anytime normally if I'm sitting on the couch, she's sitting on the couch next to me. She's always touching me. Like we have a bond, and that's what I tell a lot of people is
Yeah.
with the surfing, yeah, it's fun, it's this and that, but there's also a huge bond that develops that for the dog to be able to do it, they have to know and trust that you're not going to put them in a dangerous situation.
Right. So I want to stay on the surfing thing, but I want to get back to some history of faith. So you
Okay.
face the rescue. Let's tell that story. Let's talk her background. We've got a little bit of yours, and then we're going to get into how you teach a dog to surf, and then where she's come to there. Let's do that.
So I work at a hotel in downtown San Diego. Thanksgiving, I think it was Friday night into Saturday morning after Thanksgiving, we get a call for two pit bulls chasing people through a parking garage. So me and one of my other coworkers, we go out to the garage, kind of like, okay, what's going on? Looking around. Come around the corner, and we see first I see Faith, which is a little white pit bull. She's about 6 to 8 months old. And I'm like, really? This is what's chasing you? And then I see the second one, which is an all brown one. He was a little more defensive. He was the male, he was the protector of the two. And I sat down on the ground, called him over. He came over. We ended up naming him Ace. Ace comes over and I'm petting on him, but he's still, you could see he has some issues.
Yeah.
Faith, on the other hand, she walked over and kind of leaned up against me like she knew it was a safe spot. So we can't find anyone. They had like trouser belts around their neck, like a makeshift leash.
Hmm.
Um, so we don't know. We're assuming that they were possibly a homeless person's dog, and the homeless shelter just opened down the street. The homeless shelter just opened down the street a couple days prior, and one of the things that we heard was they were not allowing dogs. So there was tend to be a lot of wild dog, not wild, but
Yeah, loose dogs.
loose stray dogs
Yeah.
running around. So that was kind of the thought is where they may have came from. We didn't know. We couldn't figure it out. And so I'm still at work. So we call the Humane Society, and we're kind of like, hey, this is the situation. They let us know that because it's a holiday weekend, they only have one person on call through the weekend, and it wouldn't be until about maybe noon or 1 o'clock on Saturday that anybody would be able to come and pick the dogs up. Here I am at like I don't know, about 1:45 in the morning. What am I going to do with these dogs? I want to go home.
Right. Yeah.
So I talked to the lady on the phone. I was like, well, that's just not going to work. I'm not going to set them free. I was like, I'll take them home. I will take them to the vet, see if they have a microchip, and do my due diligence. And there was no microchips on them. They had the belts around their neck. They were dirty. You could see bone. They weren't in the best condition.
Sure.
So at that time, not knowing anything about pit bulls other than everything the news media says about these horrible little killing machines, I'm kind of like, well, I don't know what to do with them. And the other thing you hear is how they go to the Humane Society of the Pounds and they get put to sleep. And I was like, okay, I'm going to kind of sit on these guys and try to find their owner myself. We reached out to different organizations. We hung flyers. We did as much as we could. And after about 3 months of nothing, they kind of became family.
Yeah. I bet your wife was thrilled.
So we had two dogs already.
Yeah, I know.
And I come home from work and wake her up and I'm like, hey, look at what we got out in the backyard. Because in our backyard, we had a nice big patio and we had a little a room out built off the patio for entertaining. I was like, yeah, go out there and take a look. And her first thing was, no, we're
Not
not doing
again.
this.
Not again.
And yeah, here we are 13 years later.
So you end up keeping both Ace and Faith.
Correct.
So let's go back to surfing now. So I want to know, does Ace surf at all, or did he just not like it?
So Ace, I have taken him to the beach a couple times, but he still, no matter what I've done, everything I possibly can, he still has
Issues.
some issues, some trauma. I don't know what you want to call it. We nickname him. We say he's the ace hole of the house.
I know what that means.
I mean, he's a great pup at home to the family. He's a teddy bear.
Right.
Somebody he doesn't know, it's a different situation. So knowing that and knowing like with dogs and stuff, I was like, okay, I can. And this has been something I've done so many training classes with training that I've known, training with friends, training with professionals. The boy's got something screw loose up in his head.
Well,
And so I know that trauma. So I do everything I can to socialize him, but at the same time, keep him in a safe
environment.
environment so he's not too traumatized. So we went to the beach once or twice. He did okay, but it wasn't his thing. He's much more of wants to be at home cuddling
Homebody.
and yeah, so that's fine. I have no problem with that.
Okay, so you're now you at this point you've been at this point were you teaching surfing at this point already, or is that before, or did you end up doing that after?
So that they came into our lives in November of 2012. 2013 is where it was kind of like I volunteered as the surf instructor with the animal center. So after all summer volunteering my Saturdays or Sundays, whatever it was, I don't remember. Me and some of the other people are like, hey, we should take our own dogs to the beach. We've been out here messing with everyone else's dogs, and our poor dogs are at home. So
Mhm.
I had surfboards at home, obviously, because my other two have surfed. I was kind of, I guess, secretly training, not really, but I was laying the boards down,
Sure.
getting the pups used to them, making them friendly, feeding them on it, just making it something that they were aware of. So it was like, all right, let's go to the beach. It was the end of August. It was like the last weekend of August, I want to say. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take Faith and just see what she does. I put my other dog's life jacket on her, which was way too big. It was just like, hey, let's what's the worst that can happen? So we go out. I do the knee deep water, put her on the board, give it a little push. She rode it in all the way to shore.
Okay, well, now let's pause for a second. So you've learned how to teach these dogs. So let's walk through. She's now been on the board, but training them, is that how you start with any dog? Is you just take them out a little bit out and then you put them on the board and see how they respond, or how does that work?
So the way I tell everyone, if they want their dog to learn to surf, first thing is have a surfboard around. Let them know to like do dry work.
Well, yeah, but let's pause there again. I'm sorry to keep interrupting. So one of the things I read, and it made a lot of sense, and I never thought about it, is the better board to teach them on is on a foam boards. And for listeners, can you tell them the difference between a foam board and like an epoxy board, and how that the stability and all that for everybody there?
So mainly a foam board is like what you'd think of as like a boogie board, just a very large stick of foam.
Right,
Some of them have a very hard bottom, some are fiberglass bottoms, some are variations, but ultimately it's a big piece of styrofoam.
right.
The dogs do better on those because they can drive their nails into the board and get a little board grip. And then also it's safe. If they fall off, the board hits them, the board hits anybody else. It's a lot better, and then they're just more buoyant.
Well, they're softer, and the other thing is about epoxy. I've got, I've got. Matter of fact, I'm in my room that I'm in right now. I'm looking at two surfboards myself right now. But epoxy, the problem I always say they chatter. They're really buoyant, but they're really unstable.
Hmm.
Typically when people are learning how to surf, they start on a foam board anyway. So it's a really good one because it's more stable.
Correct. An epoxy or a fiberglass board, they're great for carving up a wave, doing all these cool tricks. But if you don't know what you're doing, they're a nightmare.
Right. Exactly.
And some dogs I've actually seen ride epoxy boards, and they do awesome.
Well, they know. Yeah, they've been doing it for a while.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's still that training that goes into effect on the more buoyancy board.
Okay, so now I know I interrupted you a bunch of times. So now so when you're starting a dog on a foam board, so walk me through the process, and then let's hear about the superstar of faith.
So there's some there's some different ways. Different people have different techniques, different dogs, whatever. When I tell people and they say they're interested, I always recommend to them, if you have a foam board at home, and just get them used to the board, have the board around them. Feed them on the board. Let them know the board is not a scary place. I tell people all the time, once they kind of feel comfortable, throw some pillows under the board so it has a little more, when they step, there's a little like soft spots like it would be in the water. And then I recommend take them either to a pool, a bay, a lake, somewhere with calm water. Let them feel the buoyancy of the board. Learn to trust the board.
Oh,
They're going to trust that board. They're going to trust you. It's to me, it's a lot happier in a winning situation.
makes sense.
Some people, on the other hand, they'll be, oh, my dog loves the beach. They're not afraid of anything. Okay, cool. Take them out to the beach. Go somewhere with very small waves, some white water. Same thing. Just get them used to that board. Let them jump up on the board. And then you might be able to not necessarily push them in the wave immediately. Let them feel the board moving in the wave. Let them get the sound, the memory, the feel of everything.
And the balance.
And then try just a real little wave in, a foot, 2 foot deep water. See what happens. So like I said, there's a couple variations of how to do it.
Yours makes sense to me because then again, the dogs are in an environment they're not used to being in. They may take the water right away, but just being able to, they understand it. It's a safe harbor,
Hmm.
without that being a pun. Um, but at the end of the day, that makes sense to me. So once you've got them used to it at home, and then you take them to the beach, And that's where we were with Faith. So you get Faith out there, and let's just go from there.
So we take Faith out. I've practiced at home, whatever. I go out into water. I call her. She walks over. She jumps on the board. She's comfortable with it. I was like, all right, we're about knee deep. Let's give it a try. Give it a little push. Just white water, nothing hard, fast. She rides it into shore. The front of the board noses into the sand. She jumps off and she stands there next to it. Okay, this is good. Let's do this. I try it a few more times. We go a little deeper, a little further out. I think we were about waist, maybe belly button deep when we by the time we were done with it. And she's still riding it in. I was like, all right. Now I don't want to push it too much. I don't want her to lose it. This was successful. Now go play. Go get dirty, roll in the dirt, do whatever you do. It was great. And knowing because of the organization I was helping with the clinics, they hold a surf dogathon every year. It's the second weekend of September. I was like, we're 3 weeks out. Why not? I'm already going to be there with my other dog. Let's enter her. What's the worst that can happen? She doesn't do it. I lose 30, $40, whatever the admission fee is. And I know not to do it again. We end up going. Again, this is Faith's maybe third time at the beach on waves. We did the initial one. We did one practice before then, and then that weekend. She ended up placing third place in her size division.
That's awesome.
And one of the things that I tell one of my buddies who became one of my really good friends, he has a dog. Well, she has passed. His dog at the time was one of the top surfing dogs known, and we got put in the same heat as him, and we're the same division, same heat. And I was just kind of like, Faith could do whatever Abby can do, and he laughed at me. He was like, "Yeah, whatever, dude.
Yeah.
Look at you. You don't even know what you're doing out there." This and I was like, "We could do that. We could do." That's all I kept saying, just messing around. Abby became got first place. We got third.
That's pretty awesome.
I was highly impressed. I was like, "Well, let's do this. Here we are." And it's just progressed since.
So to date, I read an article, but I know it's more now. How many contests has she been in now, or events has she participated in now, roughly?
Oh God. I honestly, I couldn't tell you the number she's been in because
It's over 1,000, right?
I don't know about that, but it's the number's astronomical. I mean, we've done all the local competitions pretty much in California. We've gone to Florida for one, um, and then we've even done little thing like it's as goofy as it is. There's a trailer that's a wave machine, and we've done surfing like little competitions in that thing. I couldn't tell you how many we've done, but
You've done a lot.
yeah, she's easily caught thousands upon thousands of waves.
Well, it's crazy to me that you've got this rescue dog basically that you find in a garage is now a famous surfer. So one of the things I want to get into too, and I'm going to get back to the surfing. So when you see pictures of her, she's always wearing a shirt, and then there's a reason why, and you know where I'm going. But
Mhm.
she wears a shirt, or she's either wearing sunglasses or goggles. Tell everybody. I mean, one, she looks cool, which is really cool about it. But there's another reason why you're doing that. So, and I think it's a good thing to bring out to people if they're going to teach their dogs to surf, and they have some of the same issues. Can you kind of go into that a little bit?
So the whole rash guard thing that she wears, it actually started. So the reason it started was with my other dog Raven, who did dock diving. She was all black, and she'd always wear a pink rash guard. So pink was her color,
Right.
and it was kind of just so I could see her and all these other things. Well, with Faith, on the other hand, being white, I just her first rash guard I actually found at my hotel is lost and found. So that's how the green color started that she always wears. It was just what we found. But white dogs tend to get sunburnt.
Right.
People don't really think about that.
Exactly.
So I that was the other reason she'd always wear that. Even when she goes out for walks and I know it's going to be like a sidewalk or something on a bright day, the sun will actually reflect off the sidewalk to her belly, which has pink on it, and she gets sunburn. I can't rub sunscreen all over her. I She does, but she doesn't get it all over because she doesn't let me. And then the sunglasses are the same issue. I go out, I wear sunglasses to keep sun out of my eyes and keep the glare and whatnot. It's the same thing with her. Faith has pink with her light skin, and then she has pink around her eyes, which actually will get sunburn.
Right.
So it's kind of a fashion thing. It looks cool, but there is actually a functionality to it. And most of the time, most dogs, when they walk, they're sniffing. So I found some toddler glasses, put those on, and again, the reflection from the sidewalk, the sun off the sidewalk and whatnot, her eyes are actually being protected.
Well, and for the people that are listening, everybody out there for the most part are, well, I would assume most everybody is animal lovers, but you don't, I've had a dog that had white hair, but I never really even thought about them, one, getting sunburn and also getting skin cancer.
Mhm.
And that's a thing. So for you guys out there listening, this is just in a random way of saying that's another thing to think about when you've got a dog that's fair skinned.
Yeah, there's the skin cancer. There's I forgot what it is with the eyes, but it actually can make them go blind. There's various things that we as humans we try to protect ourselves from, and people don't really think about is my pup is gonna same thing.
They have the same thing. It comes up all the time in the podcast when we're talking to different people and across the board. We don't ever really think about everything that we go through. They go through the same thing. So these guys are going through that and doing that. And I never would have even thought about putting sun lotion on one of my animals. I think that's that's kind of cool.
Yeah, we like I said, we started doing that, and we even had I can't think of what it is, but it's almost a waxy type stuff that you put on their paws. Is so when they are in environments where it could be hot, it almost protects them.
Oh, really?
It's I forgot what it's called, but it's actually was developed by someone that did the Iditarod type dog
Sled dog.
sled racing.
Yeah.
It's the same exact stuff that they put on the paws of the dogs up there to
Huh.
protect them from getting cold when they're running. It creates a layer and it helps their paws from getting burnt and poked and all that miserable stuff.
So let's go back to surfing. So now, one of the things, let's talk a little about. I mean, she's done all these things, and we'll get into some of the notoriety she's had as well. But what I thought was interesting, one is, of course, you follow all the big surfers and Nazaré and all that kind of stuff that's going on now these days. But one of the cool things is that most of these surfing contests they have for surf dogs, the world championship and all that, they do a lot with rescue animals. And they're like you were saying, you worked when you first started was through a shelter. So I think it's kind of interesting the ground roots because I think Lowe's Hotel there
Mhm.
was the first big surfing contest, but I think whatever income they derived from that, they donated to the shelters or something like that.
Yeah, so when the Lowe's one and the Lowe's Coronado one started, I wasn't around for that, but I know as when we entered into it, a portion of the all the money that was raised ended up going back to the San Diego Humane Society.
Yeah.
And then there's the Helen Woodward Animal Center that puts on the Surf Dog Surfathon every year, which is one of the biggest and longest running events. They Helen Woodward is its own animal center, but all funds from that turn around and go right back into the shelter. They're the ones that also put on the surf clinics during the summer, and they do a lot of good stuff. Like when there's hurricanes and all these things where animals get displaced from other places, they're actually one of the ones that'll fly out and collect the animals from those shelters and bring them to theirs to find them homes.
Right. Well, one of the things I'm sure that people, when you hear about it, say, "Oh, well, this is some kind of a gimmick for just doing kind of a fun thing," but it's actually grown a lot, based on what I read, but it's grown a lot, and it reminds me of having grown up in Southern California. Beach volleyball back in the day when you go to a beach volleyball contest, people would bring their beach chairs. Now they have stadiums, and you guys now have thousands of people will show up in some of these big contests, right?
Oh, it's It's amazing. Like, one of the largest ones that we go to is Pacifica, California, which is up in near San Francisco. It's like 20 miles south of the bay. And that one is by far the largest amount of people I've ever seen on a beach. That it looks as if it was like the like Kelly Slater would be there or something.
Yeah.
I don't even know how to describe it. Like in San Diego, I say we're kind of I don't know, we're kind of privileged to see this. Any You go to a beach almost on any weekend, and you could see a dog surfing on a board or whatever.
Right, right, right.
Pacifica is a whole different atmosphere. You go there, and there's about 5,000 people on this little beach, and they're standing shoulder to shoulder watching this. The dogs are coming in on the waves, and
Right.
they literally will go into the crowd because there's so many people on this beach. It's amazing.
In the contest, there's all kinds of different ones. I saw the one video where when Rothstein
Mhm.
and Faith are surfing on two boards, and then she jumps onto Rothstein's board. Was that planned? Is that part of the contest, or what is that?
No. So that video that went around, we were actually out just having a fun day, and we would, like, a lot of us will go out and have a beach day, and we'll all go practice and, just have fun. That one, we just happened to the dogs got launched on the same wave. We weren't even that close to each other when they left, but because of the waves ended up bringing them together, the boards bumped and it just happened.
That's cool.
So it is something that happens in competitions, but it's not something that anyone plans because obviously safety.
Right.
You don't want to run a board towards another dog and vice versa. But yeah, that's something that happened that day. There's another video floating around with Faith and Cherie, which is another one of our other good friends. And Cherie actually, her board makes a hard right turn behind Faith, and it starts to go to dumper. Cherie leaps off the board, lands on the back of Faith, and Faith just kind of steps forward, like, all right,
Okay, cool.
and they ride it to shore.
That's great.
It's amazing. It's The dogs just get so used to each other, and it's no big deal.
Well, the other thing is, well, a couple things. So I want to talk about the different events that they have and how they're being judged, how you get first, second, and third, and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, if for anybody that's listening, if you do a little research on surf dogs, these guys are celebrities now in the surf world. I mean, this is not just the pet parents that have surf dogs in the surfing world. Kelly Slaters and everybody else, they're celebrities.
Yeah, it's crazy. I've Like I said, Pacifica, they had posters on businesses advertising the event with my dog's face on it. We When we've been up there, they've done meet and greets at local restaurants, bars, and
Hilarious.
we will get hundreds of people coming through wanting to take pictures with my dog. I mean,
That's pretty cool.
it still blows me away on some of this. Is like, I'm doing this to go out and just have fun with my dog, and people are wanting to take pictures. Some of the dogs have like heavy duty merchandise that gets sold, and
Swag,
yeah, I admit I have stickers and keychains and little things, but
as you should.
I know others that have T-shirts, hoodie, like it's became like as if it was a concert. If it was, it's crazy.
Yeah. So when they do that, let's go back a little bit to the contest, and then
Mhm.
we'll cover a couple other things. But so how do they get judged? Is it based on how long they ride the wave, or how does that work?
So each competition's a little different because there's no standard
Uh-huh.
per se between all the competitions. They kind of are on their own page, but the criteria is pretty close to the same, and it's a lot like human surfing. Size of the wave, length of the ride, confidence on the wave, if there's any tricks done, if the dog's laying down, standing up, spins around, jumps to another board, Some catch a frisbee, some hold a toy.
So they're doing tricks. What kind of tricks are they doing?
Some dogs, it's as simple as like there's this one dog, Fred. He only surfed for a short time, but he would always carry things in his mouth. And so at one of the competitions, it was in September and it happened to be 9/11. They put an American flag, one of those little
Oh, that's
American
cool.
flags in on a stick in Fred's mouth, and Fred just held it the whole time. I mean, you getting the dog to concentrate on the wave and hold it, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So when you're taking the dogs out, so basically you go to Faith, you go into the water, say, "Okay, Fred, get on the board," or whatever. I mean, however that works, and then you basically pull them out to whatever the right size of the wave is, and then
Mhm.
wait for the wave. You push the wave, they catch it, and then they do whatever they're doing. Is that how it works?
Pretty much. So, like, for example, me, I tend to carry Faith like a child through the waves because she's short, so waves are gonna be ended up splashing in her
Oh,
face,
I got you.
and then if she's on the board, waves are only to my knee, and I'm getting older, and my back ain't gonna play with that. So we get out. I get out to about waist deep. I set the board down. She steps onto the board from my arms, and then I walk out and I get to wherever I feel is the best spot for a wave. Wait, and then once I'll tell her, be like, "All right, come on, let's go, let's do this," and I make sure her feet are positioned. I make sure she's in a good spot. I'm not going to push it when she's on the nose, or basically, I'm not going to set her up for failure. But once she gets in the wave, as soon as that wave takes that board out of my hands away from me, the rest is on her. I've seen her cut to the right and then turn the board, and now she's going on a hard left. I There's various things I've seen done.
Oh, that's so cool.
So her and I, on you were asking about tricks. One of the things that we attempted and we've actually landed a few times, and Faith I think is the only one I've ever seen it, and anyone else has said they've ever seen, is in pro surfing. There's a move called a helicopter
Sure.
where they go out fins first. Basically, they go fins first. The board will spin around underneath them,
Mhm.
so they line up correctly. So I tried it with Faith once, and it worked. So I launched instead of fins back, and she's at the back of the board. You'd push it, and it would go straight and go wherever it goes. This time I tried I was like, let's put the fins facing the beach, launch your nose backwards. The board actually spun and did a 180. I think it was to the right. She spins with the board, but she went to the left. So they kind of, one's going clockwise, one's going counterclockwise.
Yeah.
And she ended up riding it in, and she still was able to maneuver the board and made like a hard left, and she rode the face of the way. Like, I was like, you got to be kidding me. This dog,
So she's maneuvering the board now that she's moving along, and she actually knows how to do turns and everything now.
yeah, it's crazy. She'll know where to catch the wave. There's times where I've seen her legitimately lift a paw up or lean to one way to make the board turn.
That's crazy.
She's stepped back many times. Like the wave starts to die out, and she'll step back to the back to get the weight back and catch back into a wave.
That's hilarious.
I have another video where she went on a wave, the wave died out, and she's just kind of standing on her board. Another wave's coming, and generally, if she's just standing, if they're just standing there on the board and the wave comes, they'll kind of just go up and over and not move.
Right.
She steps back into the wave, puts the her weight back, and she caught the wave on her own,
Oh, that's awesome.
and then just continued riding it to shore.
That's so great.
And it's like, I can't train that.
No, well, I can't even do it myself. So one last thing that I want to talk about. One of the things I read, and I'm assuming you've participated. They do a lot of programs with the dogs surfing with kids that are from less desirable situations.
Mhm.
So they bring the kids out to build confidence in that. Can you just kind of just address that a little bit and kind of say what they're doing?
So there's a couple different organizations that do it. Like one of the big ones is a walk on water, and there'll be kids with autism, blind, or various other disabilities, and they maybe their first time to the ocean, or they may just be fearful of the ocean, and the dogs will be there. A dog will be there and kind of like, hey, go say hi to the dog. The dog will then kind of introduce them to one. They're like, hey, so and so's out there. You want to go on a board and just be near them? And then that's kind of it's dogs tend to be an icebreaker for the kids.
Sure.
So they'll be like, oh, so and so's catching a wave. You want to try? And before you know it, they're going at it. We've done a thing with it's called urban surf here in San Diego, and a lot of the kids are in that program. They're actually foster youth, and they come from areas where they may not see the ocean, or they may not be so familiar with it. And we'll do an event periodically where, hey, you want to ride with the dog? And that'll be sometimes the icebreakers, like, hey, just let's get a big board. I'd put Faith on the front of the board and she'll teach you how to surf. Before you know it, the kids are standing up. They'll, with some of the bigger dogs, the kids will actually stand up and kind of hold the dog's life jacket as just an extra stability
Really right. Sure.
and ride it in. Another one of the events that we do that Faith and I are actually really big in helping out is it's called the 100 Wave Challenge, which started out as it's a human event, and it's kind of like a jogathon or whatever.
Hmm.
It's to do 100 catch 100 waves in one day, but all the funds that you raise go to Boys to Men mentoring program, and that's it to help at risk youth or just boys that don't have a positive male influence in their life.
Right.
And doing that, I just one time I was like, "Hey, my dog surfs. Can I join you guys? Just I don't know what's going to happen, but maybe she'll just bring a little extra attention, or I don't know, maybe we can raise a couple bucks." Like, and then it's also doing that allowed me to take Faith to a different place, a beach that's not normally dog friendly.
Well, yeah.
But doing that and helping out for a few years, my oldest son, actually, Boys to Men, started doing a mentoring program at his school. And he knew what it was, and he was kind of like, "Hey, can I join and do this?" And I was like, "Well, dude, I don't know if you fit the criteria of what they're doing." And I talked to them, and they were like, "No, we're willing. It doesn't have to be a kid without a male influence, but we want to just build an extra circle for the boys to have. Maybe they don't want to go to their parents for a certain issue or whatever." And then my son is actually working to become a mentor for the peer mentoring, and he's volunteering his time there. So that's a little avenue that Faith brought us into that would have never thought. It's gotten my son to start volunteering and helping other kids out that maybe don't want to talk to an adult about certain things because they feel they can't relate. But he can be like, "Hey, why don't we do this?" and be a peer to peer mentor.
Right.
So it's just crazy how my little dog I found in a garage that I originally didn't plan on keeping has done all these things that's positive, not only in my life, but it's affecting others. It's just wild.
Well, I always say this on the show is that you go down a path you don't know where it's going to take you. I mean, if you think about, and I know we're running out of time here, but couple things for the guys that are listening, and you need to do the research on it. Faith has been featured on Good Morning America, Dolly Parton, across the board. She's a famous person. How does it feel to be the guy that's in the background, the wannabe?
People all the time they'll be like, "Oh, you're famous." I'm like, I'm nothing.
Yeah, I know.
Faith is famous. I'm just the guy that picks up her poop.
Yeah, you're the guy that found her in the garage with a belt around her neck. I mean, if you think about it.
Yeah, it's like I said. People go, "Oh, you do it for the social media clout and all this." It's like, no. The only reason the social media thing started was honestly It started with my older dogs. It was just somewhere to put my photos so I didn't lose them. And then I got little messages from random people. Who knows how people find anyone online, but just random people is like, "Oh, you know what? I was having a horrible day. I saw this picture of your dog wearing sunglasses and I thought it was cute. It made my day."
Exactly.
And that's ultimately that's if I can go out and have fun with my dog, share that experience and bring a smile to somebody, cool. It's made my day.
I think what's cool is that you got a rescue dog that's now, famous because of that, but living their best life, and they're by the way, they're getting to do what I don't get to do. They can go to the beach anytime. I can't get to the beach all the time. Okay, so listen, I mean, I know we're really kind of we've been pushing the time, so this is my favorite part of the time that everybody cringes. Everybody is cringes. I kind of cringe when I'm saying it. So here's my joke, guys, for what's out there. So I've got a question for you, Jim. So
Yes.
here we go. Where should you never take a dog?
Ooh, I'm not sure. There's some places, but I'm not sure what the family friendly answer is on this one.
Well, my typical cringe one, a flea market.
Oh.
Now you know what I mean. Anyways, everybody, I know you're all cringing. There's that silly joke again. But listen, I say this all the time, and I genuinely mean this. If you've got a better joke, and clearly you have to have one, you can send me an email. You can have I'll record your kids on the show, whatever you want, and put them on there. And you can send it to me at mkyle@forrealpodcast.com. And also, if you've got a topic like this that's really cool, that's inspiring, you know what they've done for the mentoring program and dogs finding being a rescue, getting to do all these crazy things. Let me know. I'm always looking for new topics and I'm always happy to meet new people. So please, mkyle@forrealpodcast.com. James, thanks so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it. Couple things before I cut off. Can you tell everybody how they can find your social media? It's great social media and all that, and how to Google obviously Faith the Surfing Pitbull. But I mean, can you tell everybody that so they can see what she's doing and see what we've been talking about?
So on Facebook, it's Faith the Surfing Pitbull. Instagram and TikTok is Faith Surfs, FAITHSURFS. Or I mean, if you even just Google that, or YouTube can come up. She's not too hard to find.
Yeah, and if you're ever in California, actually, it's all over the world now. California to Florida to Australia, the UK. You hear about a surfing contest, there's just a chance Faith may be out there doing that thing too.
Well, the next surfing competition is actually on Easter in I believe it's Cocoa Beach, Florida. So I can't say that we'll be there unless somebody wants to generously donate a some money to get us there. I would love to go, but it raises money for the Brevard County Animal Shelter. They've been running their surf competition out there. It's for the East Coast Dog Surfing Championship. I want to say the name is, which I again, Faith would love to win it, but
Yeah, well,
definitely it's the Easter surf event in Brevard County, March 31st. If you're anywhere near that, go check it out.
well, here's the thing too. If you're on Easter vacation, I know in California we have Easter vacation. In Texas we have spring vacation, which is a little bit different. But if you happen to be down in Florida for vacation, Cocoa Beach is easy because it's pretty close to Orlando, and it's people guys surf there all the time. So you happen to be around, might be a fun thing to do. But anyways, again, James, thanks so much for being on. I really, really appreciate it.
Not a problem. I appreciate you having me on. Anytime you want to talk, I'm down.
Yeah, it's funny through this thing, I get to meet people that I really consider friends when I get done with it. And again, it means a lot to me. And hopefully, out there for everybody that's listening, you've learned a little bit about this and you may have a new sport you're paying attention to. And also to everybody else that's listening, please pass the word about these stories. Keep following, tell people to follow the podcast. I'm always happy to get new people. Reach out to me again to the email. And most importantly, thanks so much from the bottom of my heart. I really, really appreciate everybody listening. For real.
For real, 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 for real.
We're supported by Let's Walk, that's here to love your animals like our own.
Austin, Houston, and Denver. Let's Walk is here to love your animals like our own. From daily walks, play, in-house sleepovers, and more. Go to work, out on the town, or take a vacation knowing your pets are in the best hands. This woman-owned small business does it all. Check us out on Instagram at Let's Walk Austin, Houston, and Denver.
That concludes this episode of For Real with your host, Mark Kyle. For previous and future episodes of For Real, listen via all major podcast streaming sites.